Well, good morning, everybody. Hey, what's up? How's everybody? Hey, it's nice to see everybody here this early. Hope you guys are all number one shape. I didn't have a chance to look at some of the chatter that was happening before I actually started the show, so I'm not sure if there was any topics already going on there. But we'll jump right in. Can you hear me okay? I made some slight modifications. Don't know if you can hear me clearly enough. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Addicted to Gear Sunday Live, our usual spot. So today's show is brought to you by Gibson. I'm joking. It looks like I'm advertising Fender, but I'm really not. It's just I just happen to be wearing this shirt today, so don't consider this any kind of subliminal advertising. It's not. Nobody's sponsoring this show, especially not Fender. And by the way, I'm playing this guitar today. This is my Edwards limited edition gold top with P90s. I spoke about this guitar a couple of weeks back and didn't have an opportunity to show it, and I was actually playing it a little bit today, and it sounds awfully good. I love the P90s. Just sorry if it's too loud, guys. Let me know if it's too loud. I think it is. I think I might be clipping there. It's a loud. They're loud pickups, even though they're P90. So, how many of you out there have at least one guitar with P90 pickups? Do we have any P90 fans in the house? I find that you should at least have one. And not everybody's a P90 fan, I get it. But they're kind of like beefier single coils. And I find that it gives like a Les Paul style guitar like this kind of more of a fatter Telecaster sound. So if you like Telecaster sounds, the P90 pickups is like a Telecaster on steroids, which is quite nice, and it cuts really nicely in the mix. Now, of course, they're a little bit more noisy because they are single coil, but nothing that a noise gate won't fix. I'm actually running a noise gate right now. Here, if I turn it off, you'll see what the actual noise level or the noise floor is. So here, it's off now. I don't know if you can hear the difference. And this is on with the noise gate. So yeah. So, all right. So let's start our conversation this morning. This is show 247, I believe. I'm losing track. I think it is. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of interesting things. But before I get started, I wanted to open up the floor to everybody that's already here. As you already know, the floor is open for any kind of discussion. I don't necessarily have a predetermined list of items to talk about. So we can talk about whatever you guys want, and anything that's interesting or popped up in the news, or perhaps you're looking at in terms of gear or amplifiers or whatever. I usually like to ask the question, who's been good this week and who's not been good. We usually like to hear the people that haven't been good first, because it's more interesting to hear what people have been purchasing or buying, or maybe you're putting the buying on hold. I don't know what the situation is right now, but it's kind of also tied into our poll question. Because our poll question, if you guys are not aware, was basically whether or not you saw any kind of difference in the market recently because of all the tariff talk and all this kind of stuff that's happening throughout the world. We'll get to that in a minute, but let me know if you guys if you guys have purchased anything interesting or looking at anything interesting this week. We'll start saying hi and going through some of the questions here so I can see who has questions. If you're new to the group, don't be shy. You need to subscribe to be able to chat. Please put a little question mark before your question so I know which questions are directed to me, okay? Okay, so let's start here. Let's see. Presley. Good morning, Presley. What's going on? Presley says I was good. He says I sold 2 guitars. I don't know if that's considered good on this channel, though. We tend to, we tend to automatically, encourage buying of gear, but selling of gear is good too, depending on where you're at in your collection and whatnot. So, what did you end up selling? We're curious. We'd like to know. Shane says that good morning, Shane, or good evening to you, because I think it's nighttime where you're at. He says, I bought a guitar during my vacation. Now, is this the same guitar you were talking about or showing us last session, or is this something brand new? Not sure now. Fill us in, because I tend to lose track depending on... you guys like buy and sell a lot of gear, so it's hard to keep up. Shane says that he bought 4 guitars so far this year. And it's still early. We're not even in April yet. So what does that mean? If you could do like 4 guitars between January and end of March, we can estimate that you're going to have, by the end of the year, at least another 12 new guitars, something like that. If you keep up the pace that you're at. Very interesting. All right. Max says I should be getting my new Kramer Beretta special this Wednesday. We'll take it apart and mod it on Thursday. Now, Max, did you mention to me last time? I know you had mentioned that you were looking at a Kramer Beretta, but did you mention what color it was? What did you end up getting in terms of color? The colors, I think, are limited. There's the salmon color like I have. There's the black, and then there's the white. And I think there's a blue. I don't think they've released any other colors. So what color did you end up getting? The reason I ask is because if you're going to mod it, color, depending on if you're considering painting it or not, or doing something with the paint, you might want to base yourself on a neutral color. Like if you're considering doing the EVH striped paint job or something like that, then I would recommend you get the white. The thing is, I think the white comes with a rosewood neck, if I'm not mistaken. So they've kind of like thought about it, and I think they made it a little bit more difficult for people to mod, because it would be extremely easy just to buy that guitar if it had a maple neck and just paint it with the stripes and you're done. But because the neck, I believe they issued it with a rosewood neck, you would have to swap out the neck, which is not fun. Steven says that he was good, and he acquired an Alvarez acoustic electric bass and a Line 6 LD175 combo amp with some Shure, I say Shure automatically because I always think about the guitar, but Shure mics and a mile of cables. So an Alvarez acoustic electric bass. That's interesting. That's an interesting purchase. That's something I've never owned. I never owned an acoustic bass. Must be fun to play that, though. I know at one point they had these, the ukuleles. They had these small, or a little bit bigger than the size of a ukulele or ukulele, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And they had these big rubbery strings on them, which kind of made it sound like a bass. I played one of those things just for fun because I'm like, what the heck is this? And it actually was a lot of fun to play. So, bass is fun to play every once in a while. I think most guitarists, if you have more than one guitar, eventually you probably get a bass too, just to be able to have that in case you want to put down some tracks or something like that. So that's pretty cool. That's nice. Skimrush says, anyone have an opinion on Guild guitars? Well, which one? I think there are a few Guild fans in the house. Let us know which model you're looking at. There's a lot of sweet sounding Guild guitars out there, depending on what you're looking for. Very nice. Shane says, neck through Telecaster, 5-piece neck. 5-piece neck? What does that mean? Like a 5-piece neck, like, you know, this way? Like striped this way? That's interesting. That's pretty cool. What brand is that, Shane? Max says, Tony, went for the blue color. It's made in Indonesia. The black and white are made in China. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. The one I have, the black one, I think is made in... Is it made in China? I think it could be made in China. I don't know if it's written on the guitar. Let me check. It's right there. Hold on. I think it was made in China. And I think the other one I have might be Indonesia. I'm not sure. Well, it doesn't... It says designed in the USA, but it doesn't say exactly where it was made. So I'm not absolutely sure. But they're tricky that way. They like to use designed in the USA. You know, they're taking a page out of the Apple playbook. Designed in California. My Niesert says, got a Pepto pink Beretta special so I could paint it. No idea what to paint, so I have not done anything but play it. That's like the one I have. It's like salmon color. I put a decal on it. You know, if you guys don't want to necessarily paint stuff, because it's a little bit of a hassle to do that sometimes, there are a couple of very good quality companies that make guitar decals that you can actually just stick on the guitar. That's what I did with mine. I kind of like the satchel color scheme, and I thought I always wanted to have some tiger stripes on it, like an 80s guitar. So I decided that one, since it was a color I wasn't necessarily fond of, I decided let me just get a decal and put it on that. So it's not actually painted, that one. It's just a decal, and it fools a lot of people. I actually asked them to make it special for me because they didn't have one that really matched the color of the guitar. So they kind of tried to match it as closely as they could from pictures. They did a pretty good job. It's not 100%, but it fools most people most of the time. Before we go any further, guys, give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. I'd like to be able to see what the participation level is today. Who's on the ball and who's not. Who's listening while they're doing other things. I hope some of you are actually playing your guitars while you're listening. I think that would be the best way to, you know, participate and get sort of into the state of mind for the show. Max says he'll be painting the EVH style color on it in 12 days time. So Max, if you don't mind sharing some of the pictures, that would be really cool. I would appreciate seeing some of that once it's done. I always like watching projects as they unfold, especially paint jobs. Now, is this the first guitar that you're going to be painting, Max, or is this have you done it before? Because it's something that requires a little bit of attention and a little bit of knowledge. And it's not always that easy. So for people that haven't done it before, I try and tell them, like, you know, maybe practice on a guitar that is not necessarily your favorite guitar first, and then you know, move up from there. And let me know what kind of paints you're intending on using on that paint job. I can maybe give you a couple of tips as well. Presley says both were Presleys. So both guitars he sold were Presleys. A double cut 24 PR Esley. I like that. Flame top, oil and wax finish, and also sold the P90 Parlor Flame top, oil and wax finish. Selling means I can buy more parts and keep building. That's cool, man. So you're heavily into the oil and wax these days. Why do you choose oil and wax? Just out of curiosity. Is it because it's easier, it's quicker? Is it something that you've experimented with extensively, or is this just something new that you're trying in terms of finish? It's cool. Very cool. I don't usually use oil and wax on the fronts of my guitars. If I ever do a project, I'll consider oil and wax for the neck if I want to keep it, you know, without any like sticky poly or anything like that, or lacquer. I'll, you know, oil and wax it sometimes, and it does create a really nice finish. So Steven says, not a purchase. I was good. It was given to me. All of it with more to come. Hey, good, man. I told you, dude, you know, you're putting out good karma in the world, so it's coming back to you, man. That's really cool. My knees hurt says, I played bass yesterday. Poorly. What kind of bass do you tend to gravitate to in terms of music when you're playing bass? Do you just noodle? Or is there some like specific type of song or music that you end up playing? I feel like a lot of, if ever I end up playing bass, I like listening to the old stuff. Like the bass lines, you know, the Zeppelin bass lines, or even the Beatles bass lines are really cool because it's not just a standard, you know, do kind of bass line. It's based on a scale, so they move around all over the place, and it's quite groovy. I love that. Not as easy to play, but it's fun. It's a lot more fun than just the standard, you know, repetitive bass lines that you sometimes hear on the more modern songs. Yeah, Shane, I agree. Kramer does bring back high school memories. I've seen a few. Recently, I've seen quite a few Kramers for sale. Not the Berettas. They had a few other, like the Pacers and a couple of others that they had back in the day. So I've started to see them popping up on the used market, and I always take a second glance at some of them, saying, you know, should I, shouldn't I? But you know, I think I'm at the stage right now where I don't necessarily want to buy cheap guitars. I want to sort of, I'm thinking maybe this spring, depending on how things go with the economy and all the craziness that's going on, would be good to maybe liquidate a few of the lesser played guitars that I have and sort of start building a fund for, you know, a really special purchase. Maybe something I've been looking at, but I'm not that enticed by the inexpensive guitars, not because I want to be a snob or anything like that. It's just because I kind of want to like limit the collection to a few really nice guitars that I play a lot, and then sort of start liquidating the ones that I don't play as much. You know, I've gotten to the point where it's time. Shane says 80s Kramers are mostly beaten up pieces of crap, unfortunately. Yeah, it depends, but sometimes you can get lucky. The ones that I've seen here locally, they didn't look beat up at all. I mean, there was no chips in the paint or anything like that. Sometimes you even see the acoustic Kramers that they came out with. I don't know if you remember those. I think they were they the Farringtons? I don't remember the actual model number. Maybe you guys know. But they were thin acoustic Kramer guitars that looked like electric guitars. They had a plastic back, kind of like the Ovation style, but like much thinner. Those pop up from time to time, and a couple of times I was almost tempted to buy one, even though they don't sound good. Like they're too thin in terms of body thickness to sound good acoustically. And I don't think they're really made to be played acoustic. I think you can plug them in. Unfortunately, a lot of those have issues with the bridge. A lot of the bridges on those are they come unstuck, or you can see there's a big hump. So you have to be careful when you're buying those. You might end up with something that's unplayable and hard to fix. Rick says it's the Farrington. Is that the one? Shane says he sent a picture of my new guitar to my Instagram. I can't access Instagram right now, Shane, because I'm using my phone to actually be the camera today. So I'll have to look at that later. But thanks for sending it over. Rico, good morning. How are things in sunny Arizona? Rico, I swear sometimes I'm going to come down to Arizona. I have to. Weather here just sucks. Like really bad. Happy Sunday to you too, Gas. Mark's gas station is here. And Danielle is here too. I was reading late fall before holiday season and tax return season are good times to sell. Apparently a lot of people withhold and like to spend tax returns on tax return refunds. If you're lucky enough, I guess, or unlucky enough to get a tax refund, I don't know which one it is. I'm always confused by that, because if you're getting a tax refund, that means you overpaid. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? Not really sure. But yeah, perhaps. I think this year could be slightly different because of the unknown, with Liberation Day around the corner, which is supposed to be April 2nd. So this week, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about what Mr. Trump has planned for us all in terms of tariffs, which might change the dynamics of, retail overall. It's funny because even though the tariffs haven't come into play, somebody was saying this week, and I don't know if it was one of you, it could have been one of you guys, that was saying that some of the prices have already started going up. Somebody mentioned that Harley Benton, they ordered a Harley Benton guitar or something like that, and it costed 30% more than usual. So I don't know where exactly that's coming from and why it would be costing 30% more, since tariffs haven't really kicked in. So I don't know if this is just a price increase that they're doing to prepare for possible tariffs. Maybe they figure, you know what, we were going to be maybe doing a 5% price increase this year, but we're expecting maybe 25% tariffs. So let's jump ahead of the game and raise prices 30%. I don't know. I can't really speak to where that's coming from, but I did hear somebody mention that. So has anybody here recently purchased anything from Harley Benton? I haven't, so I can't really talk about what the situation is in terms of pricing, but I'm curious. Guitarologist says, I'm really interested in a P90 guitar, just haven't decided on brand yet. That Les Paul looks nice. Yeah, this is actually, it's not actually a Gibson, it's an Edwards. And I love this guitar. Look, I don't know if you can see the carve on it when I kind of reflect the light on it, but it's got a really nice deep carve to it. It's beautiful. And yeah, if you're looking for something with P90s, man, I strongly recommend this guitar. It's going to be much, much cheaper than getting a Gibson Gold Top with P90s. You're probably going to look for a Gibson with P90s like this. You're probably going to have to pay like $4,000, at least here in Canada. These are probably going, I haven't checked recently, but I think they're probably going to be going for $1,500 these days. $1,500, $1,600, something like that. If I look on Reverb. I don't know if they're actually, I don't know if Edwards is still actually manufacturing these. They were a limited run. It says limited model on the headstock. So I don't know if they're still making them, but you can still probably find them on the used market for sure. And I've read a lot on these guitars, and people that have Gibsons and have tried these guitars say that it's a good choice if you don't want to spend the 4Gs. It has standard, appointments. The top on this guitar is maple. The back is mahogany. It does have the nice ivory binding on it, and it's got a U-shaped, I'm going to say a light U-shaped neck, which is quite nice, with rosewood fretboard, which I love. It doesn't have the Paulo Ferro boards. It also has the ivory binding on it as well. And I think if I'm not mistaken, the pickups on this particular model are actual Seymour Duncans that they put in there. I think they're SP90s. SP91N and SP91B for bridge and neck. This sounds like extremely good. Shane says Edwards is an ESP brand. It is. That's right. Japan exclusive. Yes. These guitars, I'm pretty sure, were made in Japan. That's why they're a little bit more sought after. And they're not extremely expensive. I think this guitar weighs about 8 pounds. Maybe 8.2 max. So not heavy. Not heavy. And I like that. I don't think I'll sell this guitar, honestly. I think there's some of these models that are out that have the lighter back. I don't like the lighter back as much. I like this one. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so it's a keeper. It's definitely a keeper. All right. Wayne says, I bought a Steinberger or Steinberger. I never know how to pronounce that thing. There's a lot of back and forth on how to actually pronounce it. Anyways, let's say it's called Steinberger. He bought the Steinberger Synapse with the refund, and it's so much fun, I can't put it down. A lot of people are talking about that one right now, Wayne. So congratulations. Yeah, it's a good choice. Good choice. And so Max says there's very nice Les Pauls in gold top and P90s selling on Thomann, Europe. I'll get one in July. Yeah, they do have some nice ones. They definitely do. I had a gold top from Thomann that I reviewed, and I ended up selling that guitar. It was a nice guitar though. But I decided not to keep it because it was a little redundant. I don't know if I can find that review for you guys quickly on my channel. I think I can. Let me see here. That one was a while ago, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Hard to search for whatever reason when you're doing your own, when you're looking at your own channel for some reason. I don't know why. They don't make it easy. But yeah, that guitar, the reason why I sold the guitar wasn't because it was bad or anything like that. It's just because it ended up being redundant for me. And but I remember it being and playing very well, and I had no trouble finding a buyer for it. Where is it? Anyways, if you guys go back into my channel archive, there's a lot of videos in there. You'll see it if you're interested in finding that one for yourself later on. Yeah, I got to go back quite a bit. Anyways, I'm not going to waste time trying to find it. It's in there, guys. Just go look. So Max can confirm. He confirmed. He says, yes, Thomann raised their EVH guitar prices already by 50 to 90 euros. And he says, I'm shocked. So when did this happen, Max? Did this happen like just recently, or was it like a few months ago? Do you know? That sucks. Well, it used to be a good source for inexpensive guitars. I don't know if that's still the case these days, unfortunately. Oh man. Well, things are changing. Paul's here. Hey Paul, what's going on? Paul has a pedal recommendation. He says the TC Electronic Infinite Mini Sampler Sustainer. Great in a trio to lay down chord drones on a solo, 110 bucks USD. I like TC Electronic stuff a lot. Now, I don't know if you guys heard the news or not, but I think recently TC Electronics was sold. I don't know if you guys realize that or not. Yep. I believe they were... Okay, I don't want to put false information out there, but I believe they were going to be moving their headquarters, one of their headquarters, to China. And the way I think it's been working, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but Music Tribe owns TC Electronics, or the TC Electronic name. They also own a lot of other companies, by the way. Like, for example, Behringer is part of Music Tribe. So Music Tribe now has a massive factory in China. And I believe what they're doing, or what they did, is they're taking TC Electronic and they're moving it to China. They're moving production to China. It kind of flew under the radar. Not a lot of people were talking about this. I caught it, and I'm a little disappointed because I'm a pretty big TC Electronic fan, and you know, I have quite a few pedals, but I did come across some postings that were made by employees at TC Electronic. There was one fellow who was a dedicated engineer, and he actually posted on LinkedIn sort of a goodbye message. And that's what initially made me think about, oh, what's going on? Something's happening. And then I looked into it further, and I basically figured out that this was going on. So yeah, it's sad, and you know, it was nice to see that they were not necessarily another brand that was just putting things out in China. That was, I think, the headquarters there is where they did most of their development. So I don't know if that's going to change things for the brand. We'll have to wait and see. But it's kind of sad. I gotta say, I hate when that happens, man. Why do people have to like move things around? Like, you know, TC Electronic was a Danish company, right? That was cool. It was nice to be able to have a product made by a Danish company, where these days everything's made in China. So we'll have to wait and see. How many of you have at least one pedal that was made by TC Electronic? I have I have at least, I'm gonna say, well, I have this one right here, chorus. I know I have the chorus, I have the reverb, I have a delay pedal, and I have a tuner at least. So I have at least 4 TC Electronic pedals. At one point I also had the Ditto looper, and I don't know why. I think I sold that one. So yeah, they make good stuff. And I was talking about the Plethora last week. That pedal looks really cool. One pedal that can do like multiple effects. So if you guys are trying to slim down your pedal board, it's a good way of doing it. You know, if you're gonna, you know, Some people will only want to bring 3 or 4 pedals to a gig instead of a big board with like 8 to 10 pedals. So if you're going to put only a couple of pedals on there, you get the plethora. You can program what you want it to do. And so you can use it for various different types of effects, which I thought was really ingenious. A good thing to have. Very handy. Well, yeah. Cool Tune says, I have this gold top. I have this gold top. You can get some really nice single coil tones backing off the tone knob. That's what I love about P90s. And you can also get the same on a regular, humbucker style gold top guitar. You can just roll down the volume and it'll thin out a little bit as well, But I'm a big fan of the Telecaster sound, so when I play a guitar that has P90s like this one, it ends up giving me that P90 vibe just in a fatter tone, which I like. Ian's Guitar Shack says, I have 4 headstock tuners, TC Electronic. That's true. I also have one of those. I forgot about that. I forgot about that, Ian. Yeah, I have one of those tuners somewhere as well. I keep on losing my tuners. I don't know why. I'm so messy. I gotta find a better way of organizing myself here. Cool Tune says he's got the vocal harmonizer. I used to have the bigger pedals, the ones that are like squarish and black from TC Electronic. I used to have 1 or 2 of those as well, which was a really good sounding pedal, but it was a little bit clunky in terms of its usability because it was just like too big for a pedal board for me and a little bit too finicky in terms of the knobs and the buttons. So I ended up selling it, but it sounded really great. Hey Mark, what's up? Mark is here as well. He says, I use a ton of TC stuff. TC Helicon 2, I gig with 2 vocal pedals. I like the vocal stuff that they've come out with. I'm not a vocalist, so I don't necessarily need it. But it could come in handy if ever you're, just helping with some background vocals. He says, I have 3 Polytune tuners. Why 3? Are they backups or they're just iterations of the earlier ones to the newer versions? My Niesert says ditto pedals. I think I have 3. I'm my own band against my will, he says. And Mark says he has the Infinite Sustainer 2, a Mojo Mojo, a Spark Mini, and a full dyed Spark. A full dyed Spark? What does that mean? It died on you? Oh, full sized. Sorry. I didn't see your next message there. Tell me, Mark, the Mojo Mojo. I was looking at that pedal for a little bit and never really found good reviews on it with sounds that were convincing to me. How do you like it as a drive pedal? I hear good things. Shane says, this week I'm in Bali, the next island over, on business, unfortunately. Hey man, there's worse places to be, Shane. If you're gonna be on a business trip, Bali is not too shabby. Nice place to be. I'm sure you could find some downtime to enjoy, the finer things that you can do in Bali. Very, very nice. Make the most of it, dude. Mark says the TC pedals have been all made in China for years. They just shut down the R&D in Germany. The new things are designed by the Behringer's synths and high-tech department. The stuff gets glowing reviews. It does. Their stuff does get glowing reviews. So I wasn't sure exactly, but I kind of had the impression that their division was basically the R&D where they were developing stuff. So I guess everything got moved over to China. Well, if the quality stays the same, unfortunately people are losing their jobs though. That's the thing. Guitarl just said Peterson turned me into a tuner snob. They make great stuff. I still have. I bought a Peter. Actually, didn't buy the actual pedal. I should have. They're really good. But I actually bought the Peterson Stomp app, and I have it on my phone. And I've had this on my phone, I'm gonna say, for over 10 years, probably right now at this stage. And it's a great strobe tuner app. I use it all the time when I'm working on my guitars. Just pull out my phone and I have it right there. I paid like $9 for it back then. I don't know if they're still making it or if they're still offering it. But if you guys do a search, go to the Apple Store. For those of you that have Apple devices, just type in Peterson strobe, and you should be able to find it. And it's well worth the money I paid. I love it. Danielle says, I was reading that the Godin Kingpin P90s cannot be easily replaced. They design thinner ones that do not penetrate the guitar's top. That could be. I'm not well versed in that particular model, the Kingpin. It could be that they just sit on top. That for me is a no-go when I'm looking at guitars. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that or not, but like I've noticed a lot of the new PRS style guitars that are coming out with specific PRS pickups in them, they're not the same shape or the same size as regular pickups. Now I don't know if the ring that they put on there could easily adapt to regular size pickups or not, but that would be a big hesitation for me. I wouldn't necessarily want to buy a guitar that I couldn't change pickups on, because if you don't like the pickups, what are you going to do? You're going to be stuck with them. And I'm not always convinced about pickups, as you guys know. A lot of times I'll end up changing pickups in my guitars, and eventually it land on something that I like, but sometimes it's trial and error, and I would feel that's a big limitation. Maybe it doesn't bother you guys as much. Has anybody felt the same way on that? So Rick says gear in China ties into my comment. Comment or show, Tony? Pre-show comment. Okay, pre-show comment. I didn't see your pre-show comment, Rick. I would have to take a look back. I don't know if I can find it easy. Yeah, I see it here. Good morning to you all. Just having that second coffee and scheming for the week on builds. It's kind of sad but true that we can buy tons of Canadian wood for less from a supplier in China. I know for a fact. The thing is, there's different types of wood, Rick. This is the thing that I've come to learn also over the years, that the lumber, although it may be Canadian, it's not the same quality. That's why it's cheaper. There's a lot of different quality out there. And I'm not an expert on that, but from what I understand, from what I've been told, from people that know way better than I do, it's not all the same. My niece says, I think I play through so much distortion that pickups don't matter, or my ears are just garbage and everything sounds like a sound. It is refreshing to kind of tone down on the distortion from time to time and just hear what the actual guitar or amplifier sounds like clean. Just to remind you that you still have those tones in there and you don't necessarily have to go crazy with distortion all the time. But it is fun. It's definitely fun. I was just playing my Fender Princeton that's behind me here on the floor just yesterday, And I love the clean sound and the reverb that amplifier provides me with, but it still sounds good even if you push it with a pedal. And just the reverb on it is really great. The spring reverb is great on it, but it's fun to just put a little bit of maybe digital reverb sometimes with, I don't know, maybe a touch of delay and a little bit of drive and get into the sweet spot. Such a great amplifier, and I think it's highly underrated when it comes to using it as a drive platform, because you can definitely drive a Princeton and it works really well in a home environment because it's not loud. So I wasn't, you know, blasting it to the degree where I was getting ringing in my ears at all. It was quite comfortable levels, and it worked really, really well. Rick says, for a fact, Robert Godin sells a lot of good wood with slight cosmetic blemishes. Well, it's extremely difficult to get wood with no blemishes. You know, it's kind of hard. You have to really go through a lot to be able to find those unique pieces, because it is wood. It's never going to be perfect. It always has slight imperfections. But that's what gives some of the guitar's character. Mark says, I tell you what, my favorite game and sound right now is from my Friedman PT20 amp. Who needs a clean tone when your amp sounds that good? The gain sound on the Friedmans are awesome, you know, and I agree with you. You don't need a pedal when you're playing the Friedman amps. You really don't. I rarely use a pedal when I'm going through the Dirty Shirley, the 40-watt Dirty Shirley. I don't need it. You can get as much gain as you want out of it, and it's got a really good master volume, so you don't have to crank it. Same goes for the Brunetti Pleximan. Plenty of gain on that one, and you can dial it in really, really easily. So those are, yeah, I would call those amps that you don't really need an actual gain pedal on. The thing I picked up this week is this guy here. And this is what I was using through my the Princeton. Can you see that? I feel like my phone's a little blurry. I don't know. It's not having a hard time focusing. But it's the Versa. Can you see that? This is a 2-in-1 pedal. It's made by Donner. It's not extremely expensive, but it's a good quality pedal, really nicely made. One side is delay, the other side is reverb, and you can mix and match, and you can actually save a couple of settings. There's a little switch here that acts as a tap tempo, but if you hold it and hold it for 3 seconds, it basically will save 2 of the patches that you like. So I was playing this. I like these kind of pedals because 2-in-1s are nice sometimes because you could save some space on your board, although it's slightly bigger than a standard size pedal, but really nice looking and sounding pedal. So I'll try and give you guys a little review of that this week if I can. Give you a little taste of what that guitar pedal sounds like. Have you tried any of the Versa line? Anybody here? They're quite good. I was actually very surprised. Not surprised because Donner makes bad stuff, but it seems like they're upping the quality. It's really looking nice. Paul says Canada does not have duty on anything made in China under $600 Canadian. I believe it's $800. I think. But I could be wrong. $600 or $800 is the number. Yeah, they don't bother with tariffs on stuff that's that cheap. So if you're buying, you know, a standard low-end guitar, for example, or mid-tier guitar, shouldn't be a big deal. The only thing that I'm worried about is not necessarily the tariffs, Paul. It's just the trickle effect. Because, you know, if you're building a guitar or you're building an amplifier or a pedal or whatever it is, most of your components are not going to be necessarily coming from your country, which means that those components are going to go up, which is going to essentially make everything else go up, right? So that's the situation that is sort of the unknown right now. Modified Basement says, wouldn't buy unless could change pups on guitar. I have the same sickness. I have to change them. Yeah, it's one of those things that it seems like you're going to be buying something that's going to be, that has built-in limitation if you can't change the pickups. It's almost like you're buying a car and you can't change the wheels. You know, it's like, hold on a second. I want to be able to do that. I don't like companies that force you to buy their specific stuff. Like Gibson was doing that for a while indirectly with the clips. I don't know if you remember that. They had their special harness that had like the quick clips. So the pickups had to have these quick clips so you can put them in and just snap them in. I mean, the concept, the idea behind it was good because it would make things easier. You wouldn't have to break out a soldering iron and do all the work. You could just clip it. But they weren't universal and they were hard to find. So sometimes if you wanted to, if you had that harness in your guitar and you wanted to swap out with other pickups that were not necessarily Gibson pickups, you had to adapt them with the little clips or either find a way to solder them on into the guitar, which became a real pain. So, you know, I think the idea there was for them to encourage people to buy those Gibson pickups, but I think it backfired on them. That's one thing. As I mentioned, the PRS pickups, like, you know, if you're not a big PRS pickup fan, you might want to put something else into your guitars. If they're building their guitars so they look right with their specific pickups in them, and then you try and swap them out with something else, it kind of ruins the look. Especially if you, let's say you buy a PRS guitar with these PRS pickups in them and you like the bridge pickup really well, but you don't like the neck pickup and you want to put something in there that's different, it's gonna look weird because they're not the same shape. The ring is not the same. It's going to look like a mishmash. So this is, to me, not a good thing. Riffman wants to know, Tony, have you tried the Behringer Fuzzbender? No, not yet, but it is on my hit list, Riffman. Have you tried it? It's just because I haven't actually had the opportunity to find any inventory here. A lot of the stuff from Behringer, the new stuff, the new line, hasn't actually hit the stores yet. And some of the stores that I frequent don't even carry Behringer. So I'm trying to see if I can find a place I can get them online, preferably in Canada, if I can. But I haven't found any yet. Amazon doesn't have them yet, at least not in Canada. So I'm waiting, but I'm very interested in the fuzz. I was interested in the Klon. I was going to buy their Klon clone until I got this. And now I figured, you know what, why do I need to get that? I ended up getting one of these. This is the Centaur. This is the Centura, sorry, not Centaur. This is made by the folks over at... the good folks over at whatchamacallit. the Syriatone people. Syriatone. I never know how to pronounce this stuff. Anyways, so I ended up buying that. And so I don't think I'll be buying the Behringer version of the Klon anymore but I am interested in the Univibe and I am interested in the chorus that they have. So I'd like to try out all of those. If anybody's tried it here, specifically the Fuzzbender, let me know. If it sucks, I'm not going to bother. But I figured at the price that they're selling it, it would be a cool pedal to have nonetheless. So Vox says that he picked up a Behringer SF300 based on all the rave reviews online. The boost was great, but the fuzz 1 and 2 settings refused to pass the G, B, and high E strings. Had to return it. Disappointing. A lot of people do opt for that pedal that are interested in some fuzz because they do get some pretty rave reviews, but I wasn't convinced. So you kind of confirmed my suspicions on that, Vox. It's probably maybe not the best option. I mean, it's cheap, but I don't know how versatile it is. Dewey7330 says, Tony, did you keep the clone? So which one now? Are you talking about this one, the one I just showed? Because I have a couple now. I got this one. That's a clone. I have the Timness Deluxe right there. There from Wampler, which I also consider a clone. And I also have the Ghost Drive, which I consider a clone as well. And there's anyways, there's a few pedals that I have which I would technically consider clones of the clone circuit. So be a little bit more specific if you can. Rexomatic says, good morning from Phoenix to all our friends in Canada. Love my Godin 5th Avenue. Godin makes good guitars. And I have to say I'm a little disappointed in myself that I don't own even one. I don't. I've tried. I know people that do own them. There's even a guitar model named after our city, Montreal. A friend of mine bought it. Beautiful guitar. The only thing I didn't like, and I don't know if this is a Godin thing specifically or not, maybe you can answer the question, any of the Godin owners here in the house. The one that he bought came with one of those molded foam guitar cases. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's basically foam, but it's been molded and compressed, so it's extremely light. And the guitar came in one of those cases, and I'm like, this is weird. I never had one of those cases before, and it just seemed weird carrying a guitar in this foam case like that. Anybody here have that experience? You know what I'm talking about? Paul says 99% of all the hardware, even in a Gibson, are made in Asia. Made in Asia tuners, separate parts are. They simply assemble, not create from scratch. Or made in America tuners, separate parts are. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. So like, you know, the gears, for example, the shafts, different things, they could actually be made in Asia. And then they're shipped over to America and put together. I know. This is why I'm saying that the prices are going to go up. It's very hard these days. I don't think many companies can even say that their stuff is made specifically in one country. It's all a mishmash. Heck, even the meat that you buy a burger, and they're saying that burger meat. The hash that you buy to make a burger, it could come from as many as like 20 different places in the same pile that you just bought. So this is how the world is, you know. It's like we all share and rely on each other, and this is why it's kind of, this whole tariff stuff is kind of insanity. But hopefully it'll blow over. So Jeff says that he's happy with his Synergy 20 IR. The DS model is great. I got the Z-Rec. I also grabbed a used Friedman Harry Brown Eye for 149 euros. I've sold 3 amps and 6 drive pedals. Wow. You're giving me gas, man. You're giving me gas. Dirty Shirley module is a great choice. The Z-Rec, I'm a big Z-Rec fan. I love the sound of a Z-Rec amp. Hard to get those amps anywhere. And a Harry Brown Eye. Everybody needs one of those. 149 euros is not so bad. And considering you've sold 3 amps and 6 drive pedals, that's a pretty good trade ratio. So tell me, Jeff, let's say all in. The Synergy, the modules, what are you up to in terms of cost for that particular setup and that amp? Let me know. I'm curious. Guys, I appreciate you guys all being here. Please give me a thumbs up. Just wanted to send you guys a reminder. I hope you guys are enjoying what we're talking about so far. And the show's not over yet. We still got lots to talk about. And so far, I'm really enjoying today's conversations. Really nice topics today. And I'm glad you guys are participating and keeping the show running with such great questions. Richard says, have you seen the guitar Phil McKnight has that you can drop in any pickup in any spot? They go in from the back and it takes about 5 seconds. I will remember the name in a second. I did see that one, and there's a couple of different companies that make variations on that theme that you can slap them in from the back. I like that. Sounds a little dirty, actually. Slap it in from the back. We're talking about pickups, guys, so relax there. But yeah, I always thought that would be a great a design function. I even saw, I don't know if you guys saw the other version of that, which had a bunch of pickups on a wheel. You can actually just spin the wheel and say, like, I want a P90. So put the P90 in, put the single coil, put the humbucker, you know, all these things. It looked really quirky. Like, I don't think I'd want to have that on stage. But for somebody that wants to test sounds or perhaps test different pickups, like if you're doing a pickup shootout, that would be so cool. Because then you could just, you know, load in the pickups and do an A-B comparison. Like, you can't really do that because you have to put one pickup in one guitar, another pickup in another guitar. Then you still have to stop and swap. And although, you know, the woods might change and stuff, how many people have two identical guitars? So this way, you can do it. You know, that I'd get it just for that. Like, just for like pickup reviews. I'd grab one of those. There's crazy stuff coming out, but I like it. I like these quirky things sometimes. So Paul says, Tony, they have them at my local Long and McQuaid. In fact, all the Behringer, dozens of them. The small old stuff were $35 Canadian. Well, I got to go check at my Long and McQuaid. I haven't seen them yet, so I don't know. But I haven't been there recently. I'm going to be honest, so I have to take a walk over there and have a look. Riffman says, I got a metal zone for $20 at a pawn shop. Was going to walk away, but figured why not? It's a boss. I used to have a metal zone a long time ago. I actually bought that pedal twice. Don't ask me why. And no offense, Riffman. Sounds like bumblebees in a can. I'm just saying. Okay, maybe the new one. I don't know if this is a new version or whatever, but let's just say I felt it was a little bit limited, unless you really want that sound. But it's a cool. I bought it for nostalgic reasons because I remember a friend of mine had one in high school, and I thought it was the greatest thing in high school. I'm like, wow, this is cool. The metal zone, it sounded like rad, you know. But nowadays, let's just say it hasn't aged well. But if you're enjoying it, it's cool. My knees hurt says, I love the metal zone. Don't listen to the internet. Vinny says, do you own any Canadian guitars? There's not that many, to be honest with you. I don't think I own any guitars that are specifically made in Canada. No. Not because I don't like Canadian guitars. I would love to support Canadian manufacturers, but generally the ones that are made in Canada are custom made, custom builders, and they cost a lot of money. Motor Rose Music says, good morning from Portland. My wife and I will be visiting beautiful Victoria in April. We went last year and loved it there. It's a beautiful place. It's always a good choice. I'm sure you'll love it again. Steven says my Alvarez 12-string case is foam. I never knew until the airport folks got a hold of it. So what do? They kind of ripped it apart, or what? They put dents in it? The only reason I didn't like that particular style of case is I felt like if you hit it somewhere, it gets dinged. You know, it's supposed to be indestructible according to them, but it's still foam. Paul says my Godin is 27 years old and the neck is still dead straight, low action, and the intonation's fine. Like I said, you know, I don't think there's many people that have nasty things to say about Godin. I think generally people do think that the stuff is good, very well made. Motor Rose Music says, in 89, I traded a kid my heavy metal pedal for a first pressing Zepp 3 album. I won that deal. Yeah, I think you did, man. I think you did. So Shane says, check out Millimetric Guitars in Montreal. I might do that. Yeah, I might do that. Thanks for the heads up on that one. Vox says, anyone tried the fishing as fun as fuzz pedal? Fishing is as fun as fuzz? Never heard of it. No, I like the name though. And Gene says, I like White Widow. If you have a guitar now, I'd keep playing it and save money for a better guitar. If your current guitar can be set up a little better, maybe, and this is advice from My Knees Hurt. So Jeff says the Synergy was $9.99. The DS module was $3.38. I got a free OS module, and the Z-Rec was $3.75. The Harry Brown Eye was $149, all in about $18.50. So yeah, you're looking at the price of like a very, I would say, boutique. I'm gonna say in the boutique range for an amplifier. Mind you, today, I mean, even if it's not boutique, it's gonna cost around that price. I was recently looking around for a used JCM 800. Just out of curiosity. I don't think I'd probably buy another one because they're too loud. They're really powerful amplifiers, but they're asking, you know, $2,500 here for a used JCM 800. And it's not the studio series, by the way. This is like the old versions. Just the head, not even the combo. I saw one combo for sale, and I think it was asking close to $2,500 for it. And, you know, I don't consider that a boutique amp because it's, you know, it was mass produced, or, you know, it wasn't, but they're getting, I'm going to say like into that vintage zone now, and people are kind of wanting to get them, and they're more expensive. I got one originally many years ago. I paid $900 for it, and it was a killer. I should have kept it. I mean, that was one of those things where, you know, even if I wouldn't play it, it'd still be nice to keep it. But I sold it. I made money on it. Not that much, but I made maybe a couple $100 profit on it or whatever. But it was a great sounding amplifier if you can get it into the sweet spot. But it was loud, man. That's not an amplifier you'd want to necessarily play in your bedroom. Shane says there was an Alex Lifeson, or there is an Alex Lifeson lefty Epiphone on sale here for $600 USD. Is that the one with the Floyd Rose on it? I know they had a model at one point that had like a Floyd Rose built into it. My Knees Hurt says, I'm not in California, but compressing the foam into a 98% smaller package is probably better for the environment. I use a lot of acetone for work. I don't know about the environmental issues. I'm not sure, man. Foam. Hey, man, back in my day, every time you'd go to McDonald's, you'd get your hamburger in a foam package. Who knows how many billions of those foam packages are still in the ground somewhere. You know, we tend to forget about them because they're out of sight, but they're still there. That couldn't have been good. Rick says, finally putting a hole in the knee on my Levi's 501s. These have to be at least 25 years old. Why are we talking about Levi's, Rick? What's going on? So you like your Levi's? I gotta agree with you. The old Levi's are the best. Cool Tune says, Tony, remember they have attenuators. LOL. I'm sure you will buy if you're sniffing around. I don't know, man. I have an attenuator. It's in my closet and it's gathering dust. So maybe you're right. Maybe I need something to use it on. I'm not sure. I would be tempted by the Studio Vintage version of the 800. I think that might be cool. But to be honest, the Friedman, not the Friedman, but the Fractal that I'm using is such a great piece of gear, and it saved me a lot of money, because without this particular piece of gear, I'd probably be way more tempted to buy different types of amplifiers and whatnot. But it scratches the itch so well that, you know, every time there's an update, they have new pedals and new amps and new features and functions. It's like getting a brand new unit all over again, because you get to explore all the new sounds in it, and it just sounds so good. And I should be using it more, honestly. And last time I rehearsed, I brought it and I was playing it through my my head rush, which is there a little bit. You can just see the tip of it right there, the head rush speakers, and it sounded really good. But you know, next time I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly into the PA, because then I can come out of the PA speakers, stereo, and I don't even have to lug that speaker, and it's going to sound fantastic. So maybe next time I'll try that and we'll see what happens. Definitely won't have trouble being heard, that's for sure. Max says, answering Vox guitars, and it's an Edwards made in Japan. Who was asking the question? Did I miss a question from Vox? Oh yeah, he says Fender shirt and Les Paul. I'm so confused. Like I said at the beginning of the show, this is not an endorsement. I'm not getting any money from Fender. They should be paying me, and I had to pay for this shirt too. So on top of it. Motoro says, I just bought a Chipson from Temu, a double cut special. Anyone try Chipsons from Temu? Worst case, it's content. Not sure what that means, but I haven't purchased a Chipson from Temu. No, I haven't done that yet. I say yet because you never know. My niece says, I bought a miter saw. The packaging is going to take me 4 weeks to get rid of. Why is that? Because they just like package it in foam and duct tape and whatever it is. Wrap it up. So Jeff says, one of the amps I sold, Tony, was a Sir PT15IR, and I got 2,200 euros for it. That's a nice amplifier too, man. So, you were selling like pretty high-end amplifiers and moving over to this system. Do you feel at all disappointed going from, full-blown, nice, really nice amplifiers to a system like that? Do you feel any regret or remorse, or are you 100% satisfied? Modified Basement says the drive sounds you get here, Tony, are top notch. And I'm also, just so you know, Modified Basement, it's not the ideal setup because I'm still going through my my interface. So it's not going directly from the fractal to what you're hearing. It's still passing through an interface, and the interface, it doesn't do a fantastic job. It definitely sounds better when I'm listening directly to the fractal with my headphones plugged directly into the unit as opposed to coming through my interface. So much packaging material, huge box, and a ton of heavy foam for a saw box. Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies still doing that. They're just taking so much. You buy it, you end up buying a little USB drive this big at Costco or Club Price, if whatever it's known in your neck of the woods, known as in your neck of the woods, but it's this big, and there's about this much plastic around it so that you can't steal it. That's just ridiculous. Like, that should be illegal. That should be illegal. And I don't know. Like, the packaging should be sent back to the company for disposal or something. But that's a whole other conversation. Let's should we take a look at the poll question yet? I'm not sure. Oh, before I forget, there was a really nice video that I found on the internet, and it was an old video of Eddie Van Halen talking about his Frankenstrat. And he was actually sitting there and talking to somebody. They were interviewing him, and he ended up talking about the Frankenstrat, the way it evolved from being the black and white striped guitar, and then eventually he added the red. And he ends up saying in that video that he kind of regrets painting the red. It should have stayed black and white. I think he would have preferred it to be black and white, but it kind of like evolved into its own thing, and it became famous. So he felt he couldn't go back to the original black and white guitar. But I think he ended up like officially saying in that video that he preferred the black and white paint job over the black, white, and red. So that was interesting that I came across that. I don't know how I found it. It was on YouTube somewhere, and you might be able to find the same one. But I love this. I love this old stuff. It's just really cool for me to be able to dig up some of these old. I call them like historic videos nowadays because they're so like rare to see. They're still floating around the internet like that. I thought that was really cool. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys also, and this is some of the reasons why I get like tied up, just go down rabbit holes sometimes when I'm surfing the internet, because I find some stuff that I just can't help read. I really love this stuff. There was one particular thing that I came across. This was from Andy Summers. Andy Summers was the guitarist of the Police, if you guys remember. Hard not to know the Police. They're such a big name even after so many years, but they were huge back in the day. Back in the 80s, they were on fire. They basically released one great album after another, and they were top of the world. But interestingly enough, they were on top of the world on the charts, but internal conflicts in the band were just really bad. And after the fact, a lot of the band members talked about this. Stuart Copeland, Andy Summers, even Sting. Sting kind of still keeps it, like, he downplays it a little bit, but I think a lot of it was caused by him and the friction between him and Sting and Stuart Copeland specifically. But I came across a really cool article. Not even an article, it was kind of a description of what was going down. And Andy Summers mentions in this article how back in '82, when the band was at its, I guess, highest, it was very volatile. It was a very volatile atmosphere. And they were in a studio in Montserrat, and they were recording Synchronicity. And Synchronicity is an awesome album, by the way. If you guys don't know it, you got to listen to it. It's basically their fifth and final album that they came out with. And it's funny because the album was called Synchronicity, and there was anything but synchronicity happening between the members of the band. The tension between Sting and Stuart Copeland was such... it got to a point that it became almost unbearable. And... Sting had started to look at going solo, and he felt he was the main reason the band was so successful to that point, because he had a lot of say into how the songs were being developed. And him and Copeland clashed constantly. They're always like, Stuart Copeland's drumming instincts didn't align with Sting's vision anymore at that stage. So unfortunately, while they were working on the recording of Every Breath You Take, that conflict basically reached its peak. And in the meantime, poor Andy Summers is stuck in the middle between these two guys, and just doesn't know what to do. So so Sting at that point had written the skeleton of the song in Jamaica while he was alone, and he brought it to the band, and he was trying to get Stuart Copeland to come up with some kind of a drum sound for it, but they still didn't have a guitar sound for it, a guitar part for it. So long story short, in the middle of all this chaos, Andy Summers just quietly went off on his own and started playing some riffs and whatnot, and he came back with that iconic riff, and as soon as he brought it to the guys, or the guys heard it, they were kind of stunned. That it was what they were waiting for all this time, and it just basically brought everything together and kind of gelled the sound and the rhythm, and the whole song kind of clicked into place. So much so that even Stuart Copeland couldn't really argue with it because it sounded so good. And it ended up being what you hear on the album. And it became, one of their best-selling albums. It's just, I just love this kind of stuff. I just love this kind of stuff because basically you don't hear these stories very often. And it's like, you think being a rock star, being famous, being at the top is always great and feels fantastic and there's nothing better. But these guys were miserable. In the studio, they were like they were not even in the same room. They refused to be in the same room with each other a lot of times. So how do you create something beautiful when you can't even get along with the other people that are playing the other parts of the song, So anyway, it's crazy, and it's interesting that, all of that dissonance evolved into a great album, and the album's called Synchronicity. So it's like very, very crazy story, but this is truth. This is what actually went down. So if you're a Police fan, I'm a Police fan, big time. I love the Police. These stories are like gold. You know what I mean? So yeah. Shane says, saw a video of Tony teaching how to play Message in a Bottle. That's an old video, dude. Yeah, man. That's an old video. Do I still even know how to play it? I think I do. If I can remember. I mean, I have a distortion sound, so that's not going to be ideal, but I'll put it very low. It's kind of hard because I'm at an angle here. The slide is the most... That's the tricky part, right? It's a great exercise because you're stretching those. I love the Police, man. I think if I would be in a cover band, I'd like to be in a Police cover band. Would be a hard cover band to be in because there's only 3 members and everybody does some pretty heavy lifting in that band, including the drummer, singer. Singer's got to be a bass player, got to be able to play both parts. Hard to get somebody that can mimic the style and chops of Stuart Copeland, which I think are fantastic. So yeah. Cool Tune says, Tony, everything went well with the Fender reverb that you put together. No hiccups. I was like I mentioned earlier today. I was playing it yesterday. Yeah, it's right there, man. It's behind me over there. Ta-da! There it is. Can you see? If I get my pot out of the way, can you see that? I don't know. Yeah, I was playing it yesterday. It's everybody should have a Princeton, at least one. No hiccups. No, went pretty smooth. I don't know what to say. I mean, I took my time with it, and no explosions, no kaboom, no earth-shattering kaboom, which I think is a good sign, considering it was my first time building an amplifier. I'd probably like to try another one eventually. Gene says, same story with Badfinger. And there's so many other bands. Not just Badfinger. You look at CCR. CCR, you know, that wasn't a good story. Nella says King of Pain is one of their bests. Yeah, it's a nice song for sure. And I really love Andy Summers and his use of effects, because in those days he had a ton of effects. Chorus, delay, reverbs, layering. So it sounded bigger than just one guitarist. He really mastered that. You know, he really made that into his own trademark sound, which even today, if you listen back, you can hear it. Very nice, clean sound, you know. Vox says, anyone hear the Farron Young funeral story at Johnny Cash's place? Pretty funny story. I don't know that one. I would have to look it up. Jeff says, Copeland and Sting, is there any room in the world that can fit their combined egos? They definitely do have big... I think they're both A-type personalities. So I think Andy Summers had a bigger part in keeping that band together than we know, because I think he was like the quiet one in the middle that I guess kind of was the glue between them two. He definitely had to be a little bit more easygoing to be able to stick around in that type of environment. Gene says, manager steals all the money and equipment. Pregnant wife leaves band member. So he writes, I can't live without you, then kills himself. What are we talking about here, Gene? Is that the story that we mentioned earlier? I'm not sure what we're referring to here. Max says, I'm such a Police fan that I bought a PB50 bass in Sunburst 2 months ago so I could play Roxanne. Yeah, Roxanne is cool. I love that bass line. I do know a couple of bass lines from the Police too, actually. So, and yeah, I agree with My Knees Hurt. The Rick Beato and Copeland interviews were really nice. And he also interviewed Sting. I don't know if you saw that one, My Knees Hurt, but if you're a big fan of the Police, you should definitely catch both of the interviews. Maybe, and if I'm not mistaken, he also interviewed Andy Summers. I think he interviewed all 3 members. Rexomatic said, I had a chance to visit with Andy Summers at a National Guitar Workshop many years ago. I think the fact that Andy didn't share copyrights on songs frustrated him. Well, you know what? If it wasn't for him, that particular song, the story I just told you, wouldn't have been created. So, yeah. Definitely. Richard says, a Princeton or a 5E3? I say both, Richard. Both. My niece says, Tony, I really enjoyed your amp building videos. I'm glad somebody did. So you were the one. I was wondering. They're not for everybody. You know, for people that are not interested in doing any kind of electronic work or interested in building amplifiers, it could be as exciting as watching paint dry. But I figured it could be helpful for somebody out there if they were interested in trying to build an amplifier. I tried to be as detailed as I could with those videos. Richard says, Walking on the Moon is a total beginner song. Then you add the effects. Yeah, simple chords, but it's the way they use the delays on that particular song that make it interesting. Beautiful, beautiful song. AP530 says, I'm thinking about buying 2 Blues Juniors and using that for a band. Very doable. Very doable. A lot of people that I know will do that, exactly that. The Blues Juniors are good. They're loud amps. Even one is enough. I don't know if you need 2. Honestly, I don't know what kind of a band you're playing with, but 2 might even be overkill. One's enough. I'm telling you, man, it's a loud amp. I used to have one too. I modified the one I had. I have videos on that too, if ever you're interested in checking that out. It was a loud amp, but it sounded great. Mazzetti says, hey, better late than never. Indeed. Indeed, sir. Thanks for joining. And my niece says, Beato interviewed Andy more than once. Did he? I think I only caught one of the videos. So if he did interview Andy more than once, I would like to see that video. I can't get enough of that stuff. Mazzetti says, hey, nice shirt. If you buy a Fender, I want 10%. All right? Because it's, you know, free advertising for Fender here. Nella says, I watched the amp building series. Very good. I got the impression that you have an engineering background. I have 0 engineering background. I know nothing about engineering when it comes to electrical stuff. So I'm just happy I didn't electrocute myself, didn't burn down my house, and everything's working. So if I can do it, you guys can do it. I'm seriously thinking about maybe doing like a tweed build or something eventually. Maybe building a tweed version. I've always been interested in getting a nice tweed amplifier. The Lazy J's are the ones that I'm actually really interested in. I don't know if you've seen these amps, Lazy J. They make their amps in Europe. I'd definitely buy one if they didn't cost $4,000. So maybe I'm going to eventually end up making my own. When you have the ability to build your own amplifiers, I think it's a great thing to try and do, because then you have a better knowledge of how to fix them. And because the Princeton that I built is considered a hand-wired amplifier, there's no circuit board in there. It's all point to point. If you don't know what you're doing, you could end up with issues. You could end up with cold solder joints. You can easily make mistakes. You could install some of the components reversed. Like some of them do have polarity. They have to be installed in a certain direction for them to work. So it's easy to, put the wire in the wrong place, put one of the components in the wrong place, and end up with a lot of problems. But if you're careful, double and triple check your work, you should be okay. Tony Custom Handwire Amps coming soon. I wish. I'd love to do that, except I'd probably be extremely poor. It's time to tune my guitar. Anyways, I'll leave the tuning for later. Nella says, I'd like to have a Princeton reverb with a 12-inch speaker and a master volume. Wouldn't that just be a deluxe reverb though? Yeah, or it could actually be a Mesa Boogie Mark 1. You know, that's basically what they did. They based their Mark 1 prototype, which eventually became the Mark 3, you know, with all the different add-ons and stuff, was basically just a Princeton, a louder Princeton. That's what they were trying to do. AP530 says, I want to upgrade my Blues Junior speakers to Texas Heat. In one and a governor in another. There's a lot of different ways you can upgrade the Blues Juniors. What I did, I went a little ballistic on that, and I believe I made a video. Again, you got to go back into my videos. I got so many videos. But if you go back into my videos, I'm pretty sure I showcased the Blues Junior at one point. This was many, many years ago. But what I did is I basically, the Blues Junior, in my opinion, and I don't want to bore people that are not into Blues Juniors. Basically, the Blues Juniors, they sound boxy because of a couple of different things. The enclosure, the first thing you're going to want to do is get a pine enclosure for your Blues Junior. If even keeping the stock speaker and changing the enclosure makes a huge difference, people don't realize this. But MDF is not your friend when it comes to getting sound to, you know, just permeate the room. There's something about a pine cabinet and Fender amplifiers that makes a huge difference. What ends up happening is that the cabinet actually will resonate with the speaker, whereas MDF doesn't really do that. It makes it sound boxy. So what I did was I took my Blues Junior, I took the chassis out, I took the speaker out, and I took the reverb tank out. Now the reverb tank on our Blues Junior is this big because it has to fit in the cabinet. The cabinet's small. So what I did was I got somebody to build me a custom pine cabinet. I ended up making it a bigger one so I can put 2 speakers in it, drive 2 speakers, put the chassis back in, and bought myself a nice big spring reverb. Those, and I think I even changed the speaker at one point because I had 2 now. Anyway, long story short, it sounds like a completely different amplifier. It sounds like a boutique amplifier at that stage. Yes, it requires more money, but if you're serious and you want to make that type of amplifier sound the best that it can, trust me, change the cabinet. Let's see here. What amp are you playing now? Sounds good. Riffman, I'm not playing an amp. I'm actually playing my Fractal. Yeah. It's my Fractal. Basically, it's the Solo 100, which is basically it's an emulation of the Soldano 100, and I'm playing. Let me see here. Yeah. It's basically a lead sound with a little bit of reverb. There's another lead sound with a little bit of reverb and delay. And then there's another one that has some effects. You can hear. I'm not necessarily big on those effects. I prefer the lead or the clean with effects. This is the same kind of amp, but the clean. So you can do a lot with this little beast. Dan says, I sold my 65 for a 1955 5F2A Princeton, but I have a twin as well for that extra clean sound. Yeah. It's nice when you start getting into those vintage amplifiers, but a lot of the vintage amplifiers have to be overhauled. And that's a lot of things. A lot of people don't realize that when they start looking at these old, like if you're going to buy a 1955 an original 55 amplifier, you could be darn sure that you're going to have to take that to a tech and it's going to have to be overhauled, because all of the components are going to have shifted and the capacitors are going to have to be changed and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it says it was policey. Yeah, that was kind of what that's what kind of the clean sound. You get instant police clean sounds. I don't know if what Andy Summers was playing through in those days, but I'm pretty sure a jazz chorus was probably part of it. I don't know if he had any other kind of amplifiers. I got to look into that. I'm curious. I'd be curious to see what kind of amps he was playing back in the day. Should we look at the poll question, guys? I've been talking for over an hour and 40 minutes. There's the poll question that still needs to be addressed. Let's look at it very quickly here. Give me a sec. I'll pop it up on the screen here. And I appreciate you guys sticking around for so long. So the poll question was, it was a pretty straightforward question. And let's see now, there's 160 votes on the question. The question was, how do you think the current threat of tariffs will impact the guitar market? And you know, it's a timely question. I think it's on a lot of people's minds, specifically musicians and people that are, you know, buying and selling gear on a regular basis, like most of us here, I would say. So the answer, or the possible answers, were A, new guitar prices will rise, driving more to buy on the used market. B was both new and used guitar prices will go up across the board. C, minimal impact. The market will adjust without major changes. Or D, demand will drop overall, cooling both new and used guitar sales. So, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that before we even jump in? I know my impression, maybe I'm a little bit more pessimistic than most people, but I tend to think that, you know, you can't help but being affected throughout. In other words, like, nobody's gonna come out of this unscathed. If the tariffs do come into play and there's reciprocal tariffs and all this kind of stuff, all the stuff that they've been talking about, you know, again, nobody builds in a silo anymore. Nobody builds a product 100% in the United States, 100% in Europe or in Canada. It doesn't exist anymore. In today's day and age, we need everybody. We need components and parts from everyone around the world, and that's just basically how it works. So for me, if this does go through and these tariffs do come into play, I think across the board prices will go up. Will they go up tremendously? I can't tell you whether or not that will be the case. It could be substantial in certain cases. and others may be minimal. But I think due to one fact or another, companies are going to feel the pinch. They're going to want to increase their prices to cover their costs. They're going to pass that on to the consumers. And then obviously consumers are going to be dinged with additional tariffs when things come in through the border. So I think two things are going to happen. Prices are going to increase. Might be minimal, might be 5, 6, 7, 8%. But on top of that, I'm pretty sure, the tariffs will also drive prices up for the consumer, and unfortunately. So let's look at the results. So let's see, the most popular answer is what I just described. And I guess I'm not the only one feeling it, but 45% of you said both new and used guitar prices will go up across the board. I agree. I think we're thinking along the same lines. The second most popular answer was minimal impact. The market will adjust without major changes. I think maybe these people are a little bit more optimistic than I am. But that was 21% of you that felt that way. 20% of you said new guitar prices will rise, drive more buyers to the used market. I think that's going to be a safe thing to say. I think the used market will probably benefit. Will it be a seller's market? I don't know. Considering prices will go up, I have a feeling that individual sellers will probably try and get a bit more money considering everything else is going up. So we probably will still see used guitar gear and effects and all that kind of stuff go up even on the used market, I have a feeling. And 14% of you says demand will drop overall, cooling both new and used guitar sales. Now, this is an interesting possibility because, in fact, if people, if jobs disappear, and that's also an element that people don't like to think about, but it can definitely happen. Car manufacturers might slim down, manufacturing plants might slim down. There could be a lot of people affected by these tariffs in one way or another, which means that people will tighten their belt and not necessarily spend on things that are not a necessity, which includes guitars and gear. So if that's the case, maybe the markets will cool off a little bit, even though prices might go up. What the fact that prices might go up and people's wallets might get a little thinner, which means that they're not going to be spending. That's going to increase the gap, and you guys could be absolutely right. It might cool both new markets and used guitar sales. Hard to say, but I'm hoping for the best. There were a couple of comments, so I'm going to share those with you guys. Somebody here says, unfortunately, as history has already shown us, it's just one more reason for guitar manufacturers to justify price hikes. Again, I think everybody's in this to make some money. Companies need to be making money. They're definitely going to try to cover their costs. So for sure, they're going to be increasing their prices, I think, at least, even if it's just a 5% increase. It seems like that's what's going to happen across the board. And somebody responded to that saying it won't just be guitar manufacturers. It will be across the board because every company, especially the ones owned by investment companies, will take any opportunity they can get to raise their prices, which they can blame on something in particular. It just makes it easier, which is actually true. It's, if you can put the blame on someone else, say, hey, it's not my fault, it's his fault. He's the one who did it. Why are you blaming me? They can get away with hiking the prices, and the customers will kind of understand because it's part of the bigger picture. Someone else here says, I think that prices will go up moderately. On the flip side, maybe we will see less guitar models with quirky changes, aka Fender, and higher quality parts and workmanship put into their flagship models to substantiate the cost. That could be a good thing. I agree that I'd like to see better workmanship and less less feathers, you know, more turkey, more chicken, less feathers, which seems to be what we were seeing just until recently. So maybe that could be a good thing. Someone else here says, I don't have to worry about the tariffs here in Australia. Well, not worry specifically about guitar prices. Gear is expensive here anyway. There is the flow-on effect worldwide in general, I guess, but that's not gonna affect gear. I'm not sure about that, man. I'm not sure about that. We'll see. Hopefully not, for your you know, your benefit. And then finally, somebody says, the market is so saturated that demand is already dropping and will continue to do so during this time. Blame our Canadian government, not Trump. I guess it's a fellow Canadian there. I don't know. Again, I think it's an adjustment period. Oh, and this is where I saw the comment about the Harley Benton prices going up. It was actually somebody that had commented here. I had forgotten. So somebody said here, I was going to buy a tube amp from Harley Benton, but the price was going up approximately 60%. I had said 30. It's actually 60 because of the tariffs. Now that seems like excessive. Like even 30 seems excessive. 60? Man, if that's the case, I don't think Harley Benton is going to be selling a lot of amplifiers overseas. Look, we have to wait and see what happens. Liberation Day is happening within a couple of days. We're going to all find out what ends up being the new norm in terms of gear and guitar prices and the economy and all of that. Hopefully, it'll turn out for the best. We'll see. Nella says Fender told dealers that they will eat 50% of a 10% price hike and expect the dealers to eat the other 50%. I don't think that's going to happen, Nella. I don't think any dealer is going to want to eat 50% of a price hike. They wouldn't be making any money at that point. So yeah. And Paul says, Tony, buying from Canada and Europe will be cheaper even with imported. I hope you're right, Paul. I hope you're right. Vox says, in my neck of the woods, I don't think used will increase that much since pawn shops here are already trying to sell for 2 times new retail price. And Max says, just buy used gear for half price. Not always easy to do, man. Not always easy to do. Stuart says, a Princeton is already bassy. The 12-inch speaker makes it even more boomy, in my opinion. I don't find that to be true. I don't find my Princeton to be bassy that much. I don't know if... I did change the speaker in mine, though. It's not the stock speaker, so maybe that has something to do with it. Stuart says, thought about tearing the circuit out of my Blackstar H20R and building a new amp in it. Well, if you decide to do that, Stuart, there are quite a bit of information on how to build, let's say a Marshall circuit or something like that. I don't know how easy it would be to build it into that enclosure, but it shouldn't be too difficult. So that could be an interesting product, an interesting project for the slow months to come. Rob said the monoprice 15W price jumped $100 back in January. But again, like this is happening before the tariffs. This is what I don't understand. So if it jumped before, what's going to happen after the tariffs? I'm not sure, man. Good times, good times. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. For those of you who haven't already given me a thumbs up, if you want to give me a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. I think this week's conversation went extremely well. I really liked the interactions and the questions that you guys brought to the table this week was very, very, I thought was very stimulating. I hope you guys felt the same way. Next week we'll be back with more. I'll be there's always going to be more interesting talk. But after Liberation Day, it might get a little bit more interesting. We shall see. Keep our fingers crossed. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you very much for supporting the channel with your thumbs up and, of course, watching the video reviews. There was a video that I posted last week. Hopefully you guys watched that. Take an opportunity to watch all of the archived videos. Some of the older ones could be interesting for you as well. There's a question here from Zarly. Hey Zarly, what's happening? And I think he's a new face around here. I don't recognize the name. So if Zarly's new, I want to take his question before we actually close up shop here today. Zarly says, Tony, if you could only keep one amp between the Friedman and the Marshall, which one would you pick? That's a really good question. Pops up a lot, actually. And it's a difficult question to answer because they're both fantastic. And when you say between the Friedman and the Marshall, I think, to be fair, you have to also include the Brunetti Plexi, man. This guy, because this guy's an awesome sounding Marshall European boutique version, I would say, but does a fantastic job. Which one would I keep? Man, good question. I would say a lot of people are gonna probably not agree with me, and I tend to flip-flop on this answer because to me they're both the Friedman and the Marshall are great. Love them both. I think because the Friedman has a great master volume, beautiful edge of breakup sound. It just sounds glorious. It's got the 40-watt power as opposed to the lower wattage on the Marshall. If you're going for that vintage sound and you want to be able to have an amplifier that's a little bit more on the clean side and makes a great pedal platform, I would have to say the Marshall, this guy, because you can get it to crank. You can also keep it pretty clean and boosted with pedals. It's very versatile, effects loop, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't have a master volume though. Now, that being said, if you want to have the chewy goodness of a 40-watt amplifier, one channel, no frills, you know, and a great master volume, you can't beat the Dirty Shirley. It just sounds fantastic. So between those two amps, I gave you the diplomatic answer. They're both fantastic. I would have a hard time deciding. To be honest, they're both going nowhere. And if I had to sell an amp, it probably wouldn't be either one of those. just to tell you like my honest answer. So hopefully that helps you. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. You guys are gonna, I'm sure, have a fantastic week. We'll recap here again next week, and invite your friends. It's great to see great new people tuning in, new names, and I always appreciate that. Have a great rest of the day, and see you all in about a week. Take care, guys.